Sometimes in my work, I have to kind of pretend to be a little more severe with people than I really want to be. Today's episode is kind of like that. What I'm going to say to you is going to be a little bit hard to take. But remember, it's coming from a place of genuine care and concern. So please do your best to stick around, because you're listening to The Misfit Mentor with me, Larry Marino. Welcome to The Misfit Mentor. I'm Dr. Larry Marino, and for over 30 years I've mentored people like you. We do it by telling true stories with helpful life lessons that give real guidance for your journey. I have lived a misfit life for a long time, and I can tell you one thing. At some point, we all need a mentor. I hope you'll think of me as your misfit mentor. Well, we sure do welcome you to episode 4 of season 2 today. And the topic for today is a tough one. I can already hear some of you saying, Larry, I have all kinds of people already getting up in my face about all kinds of things, and now you want to do it. All right, let me explain. Sometimes you have to hear the bad news so that the good news makes any sense. And today's topic is one that will give you, I promise you, will give you long-lasting benefits. But maybe at the moment it might feel like oral surgery. Why do we ever submit to that? Well, because over the long haul we want to keep our teeth, which I'm generally for. But it's kind of like that. So please know, this episode is really only for people who are strong enough to be challenged, because it's about the making of excuses. See, we all have to take responsibility for our actions and for our words. Now, I know you're probably saying, yeah, makes sense. But we also have to take responsibility for our own emotions. And if you're not doing that these days, you're probably making excuses. And I know that sounds severe. So I want to give you a couple of stories of what I mean. The first one is a great example. The second one, not so good. So years ago, Viktor Frankl, World War II, Jewish doctor in Austria. Well, you know where he ends up, in a Nazi concentration camp. He's standing in a line ready to be sent to his barracks. He doesn't have any clothes on, and it's freezing outside. And while he's standing there in line, a soldier comes up to him and says that his wife and children were in another camp, and they're no more. And in that moment, he discovered that he could still choose to not be in despair. Now, how does a person do this? Well, he made no excuses for his own feelings, his own emotions, his own attitudes, and he got through it, and he became a very, very great man. He wrote a book, you might have heard of it, Man's Search for Meaning. I think it should be required reading for the human race, because he really, really shows us how this is done. You may have heard of the term logotherapy, or sometimes it's called reality therapy, and he is really one of my heroes. So please know that there are people who learn this, and they kind of had to learn it the hard way. So there's a really good example of what I mean. Now, about 40 years ago, when my kid was born, I was very sick. And this is the story I'm going to tell you that's not a very good example. And I had some gastrointestinal issues in that time, really bad ones. If you were at our house at that time, you would have heard a lot of high-pitched screaming. The pain was severe. So I was in the hospital, surgeries, and then I got hooked on a drug that in those days they called it Demerol. They don't even give it anymore because it was something like a synthetic heroin. Very good pain reliever, but obviously highly addictive. And so there we are. We got a new baby. I'm sick and addicted to painkillers, and I'm not working, so money's really tight. Now, somebody's listening and saying, wow, Larry, you were under so much pressure, and you had this baby, and you were in physical pain, and you guys weren't doing so well with the finances. And yes, I could say that. But let me ask you this. Where would be the life lesson for me if I were to just say, and that's the story? But that's not the story, because just thinking of it that way doesn't help me get where I really wanted to go in life. See, I would have been destined, if I stayed there, to just keep doing it over and over and over. And I had to, at some point, say, this is on me. See, everybody has to say this at some time. I know you might be in something like this, a tough situation. But if you say, well, it's not really on me because they did this and that happened and this happened, you really can't say that, because what I don't want for you, what you don't want for yourself, is you do not want to repeat it over and over and over. See, what this really boils down to is the fear of responsibility. And I think, looking back, that's what got me. See, it makes people retreat, sometimes into blaming, sometimes into destructive behavior, and sometimes, as in my case, into illness. One day, I had to ask, what am I refusing to accomplish? And for me, it was a refusal to not experience life through my own feelings. I had to recognize that for me, being a person who had to be different, to be someone who was not like all the others, was very important, hence the label misfit. And as you can see, I'm getting at the dark side of being a misfit. And I was in that dark side for a long time. And that was a long time ago. Now, today, our culture has something that I think can be a step in the right direction. We call it mental health days. And I'm all for them. But I know of a way to improve on that really good idea and how to make them better. And we'll get to that in a minute. But you see, when I was young, we didn't take mental health days. I'm sure you've heard that from old guys. But we did get very sick. Heart attacks and migraines and autoimmune problems, ulcers, and my personal favorite, gastrointestinal disturbances. But you can really have a real mental health day. And here's how you can make it better. What if the next time you call in and say, I got to have a mental health day, either from school or work, you can say, okay, I need a day to myself so that I can consider the following question. What necessary task am I refusing to accomplish? And why do I refuse it? Let me say it again. I need a day to myself so I can consider What necessary task am I refusing to accomplish, and why do I refuse? Write this stuff down. Think deeply about it. That's something that the Mental Health Day is supposed to be. I know, back in the day, my Mental Health Day was hiding under the covers. Maybe it is for you too, but that's not really a mental health day. That's really not giving you healthiness in your mentalness. You know what I'm saying? And you see, what I was refusing, and, just the way it is, I was refusing to be as ordinary as everyone else. And I know some of you right now are thinking, yeah, ordinary. I don't want to be that. But see, here's what you're not getting. A lot of us who are attracted to the misfit life, we sort of like the happiness of being sad. And I used to be that way. I know what this is like, but I'm telling you, there ain't no future in it at all. One of my poets, one of my favorites, his name is Rainer Rilke, and he had a lot of psychic disturbances as a poet. And when they kind of got after him, his friends said, you really should do something about this. He said this. He said, I'm not going to, because I'm afraid that if the devils leave me, the angels might leave me too. Sounds like something one of us might say. But you see, in essence, it's a fear of responsibility. And I do not believe that approach will get you where you want to go. So let's talk about you for a minute. Let's think about your goals. What is your goal with regard to being a responsible, conscientious person? Do you have the goal of being known as a responsible artist, or responsible business owner, or responsible family man or woman, or whatever it is you want to do? I'm sure you probably have that goal. So let me ask you this. When you take your mental health days, do you just stay under the covers like I used to do, or do you actually use the day to ask yourself that very piercing question: what task am I refusing to accomplish, and why? And isn't it clear that if you want to be a no excuses kind of person, can you see the conflict that you're in if you refuse to accomplish a particular task? Could be something small, could be something big, could be something medium. It doesn't matter, but for some reason, you refuse to accomplish it. We'll be back with some helpful life lessons right after this. You're listening to The Misfit Mentor with me, Larry Marino. This show is a part of a group called G2G. We're a nonprofit group doing humanitarian work in Eastern Europe with Roma Gypsies, and we also produce this show. So, if you'd like to be a part of our work, you can go to misfitmentor.com, hit the Support Us button, and you can make a tax-deductible gift right there. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get to those life lessons that we can pull out of this. Now, number one, take your mental health day. These are so important. I'm glad that this has become an acceptable thing to do in our culture. Please don't do what I did. But when you get the mental health day, don't use the retreat as just a way to retreat into some craziness or as illness or something like that. If you need a day, take it and ask the question, what task am I refusing to accomplish? As I said, in my case, I did not want to give up being different than everyone else. That wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. Number two, please, I know this is hard, don't be afraid to admit that you're afraid. Admit that you're anxious about this or that or whatever it is. Because whenever you don't say it, it is so bad, and it lives inside you, can become a kind of a monster. Once you say it, and say it nice and loud, I'm always amazed at how much more workable the whole thing is. Don't be afraid to admit that you're afraid. Number 3, please, no excuses. They're your actions, they're your words, they're your emotions. You have to start getting used to saying, that's on me. That's on me. Whatever the emotion is, it's on me. It's happening inside me. I was the one who created it. It's on me. No excuses. Number 4, this is a hard one. Please get this. There's no big specialness in being a misfit. There isn't. It just is. And if you try to sort of work it in your life that it's somehow this special thing and we've got to not belong or something, that's not going to work. What you have to do is finally just accept it. Okay, I am a misfit, but in certain situations, it really does work very well for us because we can be, I believe, really this is proven, we can be very creative. So work with it, but don't make it into a thing. That will take you to this dark place you don't want to go. Number 5, discipline your emotions. Discipline them so that you deal with real life and not just with imaginary dramas. Discipline your emotions because you can't blame other people, see? You have to discipline those emotions. You don't get to just blame people for your unruly emotions. Number 6, by exercising discipline, here's the best part. We now can express things that are not just some representation of ourselves, but something that is universally valid. I mean, this is what Shakespeare did. This is what T.S. Eliot did. These men expressed great emotion in a way that everybody can benefit. They served others. And I have to believe that is what you want to do as well. Well, I am glad you stuck around. I know I was a little severe, but I hope it will give you some real guidance for your journey. Speaking of which, we would be lost on our journey without our executive producer, John Crable, without our producer, Adam Marino, here with me in the studio, without the great folks here at WELT 95.7 in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne, Indiana, and mostly all of you who listen or watch. Thank you very much for doing that. I'm your host, Larry Marino, and we'll see you next time. God bless you.